Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing something different. For my resin art video, I'm doing my top tips and tricks to create resin art for beginners. Now some of the tips and tricks are pretty basic, but this is a video for beginners. So if you like it, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, and if you've got any tips or tricks that I didn't mention in this video, make sure you pop it down in the comment box below. So the first step you want to do is protecting your work area. So I apply plastic sheeting down before I start. With non-stick baking paper, I cover the table I'm working with. You can use baking paper or you can use plastic sheeting, it's up to you. I find baking paper just stops the resin from sticking onto the table. You can either choose to wear an apron or some old clothes. Resins are very sticky, so if you get it on your clothes, they will be ruined. And also make sure you tie your hair back if you have long hair. The next tip is very important. You need to make sure your table is level. If your table isn't level, when you pour your resin, it will go to one side and make your pour uneven. So I like to use a leveling app, or you can use a level that you buy from your hardware store. Be prepared. Make sure you have everything you need set out before you start. Resin you need to work very fast with, so you don't have time to go running off to get something you've forgotten. Before you start, you'll need your colours you're going to use, resin, some cups and knives, or you can use paddle pop sticks instead of knives, gloves, a blowtorch, a measuring jug, and some baking paper to stop it from sticking. One of my favourite tricks to make pouring my resin easier is to use a measuring cup. This way you don't have to eyeball it, as if you don't get the measurements right, the resin won't set properly. A tip I found very helpful was pour all the resin that you're going to need for your artwork in your measuring cup at once, and then pour separately into smaller cups, instead of trying to do it in smaller cups first. It's easier to get one measurement right than to try to get 5 measurements right. Once you've added part A and part B together, the resin starts to activate. So you only have a certain amount of time before the resin fully sets, so you need to work fast. If you don't mix both parts of your epoxy resin together thoroughly, your resin will not set. So you need to make sure that both part A and B are mixing thoroughly before you start your pour. Pour the colours you choose to use into your artwork into clean plastic cups, then add your resin. You need to make sure that your colour to resin ratio is 5 to 10% colour and the 90 to 95% resin. If you have too much colour or pigment, this will affect how the resin sets. Make sure you combine your resin and your colour thoroughly. If you don't mix it properly, you'll get an uneven colour. Before you start your pour, make sure you place down plastic cups onto your surface. Your board needs to be elevated off the table so the resin can drip over the edges. You can use whatever you like to elevate your board. I just find plastic cups are the easiest option, as they will get covered in resin, so you can just chuck them out afterwards. Always make sure you use a board when doing resin art. If you use a canvas, the resin can make the canvas fabric sag in places, so that's why it's always best to use a board, because that way you'll have an even surface. Start small. If you're new to making resin art, or you're trying a new technique or new colours, make sure you do it on a small canvas as a test run. You don't want to be using a big board and end up ruining it, because you're not happy with the outcome. Not to mention, boards are very costly, so it's always great to do a test run. There are many different ways to do your resin pour. If you'd like to see a video showing all the different techniques and tricks that you can use, please let me know. Another element you may need to take into consideration is the temperature of the room. This will affect how your resin cures, so make sure you have a very even room temperature that's not too hot and not too cold. A tip to stop your artwork from getting bubbles is to use a blowtorch. This will help pop all the bubbles and make it set. I find I get about a half an hour window to work with my resin, so make sure you work fast before it starts to set. Depending on the type of epoxy resin you use, it can take anywhere from 24 hours to 70 hours for your resin to set, so make sure you can leave it in a place where it stays nice and flat and is undisturbed for that time. Once you have finished your resin pour, you need to go around the edges and make sure that there's no drips on the bottom of your board. You might need to do this a few times before your resin sets. I hope you enjoyed my top tips and tricks for beginners. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe and give it a big thumbs up.